because the front of this grill has a curve to it, and since I don't have a tubing roller yet, or maybe ever, just made a couple slight bends that you can't even tell. So it looks straight from the front, but if you look down the side, you can see that it's got a nice curve. Also, made sure that the gap between the bottom of the front clip is the same across the front. And now I'm about to make a bottom piece for this thing. I've got a lot to learn about bending tubes and fabricating, but it seems to me that it's pretty easy. It's just a little geometry. One thing that I did find out is that with this affordable bender, the bend on this size tubing starts 2 1/4 inches from the front of this guide. So right now what I'm trying to do is make a bar and up on the ends to weld into that top bar. Now I don't actually have a plan, I'm just kind of building this as I go. I looked at all the bumpers that you can buy aftermarket for this thing, and they either stick way out here or they stick way down here. My goal is to make one that's not very tall and doesn't stick out past the grill very far. It doesn't need to stick out very much because I have this winch behind the grill. So I kind of want it to go the length, the span of this, cut out about half the tube and reinforce it so that I have space so that you can see my nice pretty blue fair lead. And then on the ends, kind of bend up to about half the length of that end right there. I know I want this middle section to be about 34 inches long. So from the middle, 34, half of 34 is what? 17. So I'm gonna go 17 inches out to mark where I want this thing to start bending. Right here at 34. Measure twice, 34. And then I also know that the bend starts 2 1/4 inch from where the die is. I'm gonna measure here, point a little arrow on each side, and that's the way I know where to put this thing inside the affordable bender to get the bend to start where I need the bend to be. So, that being said, let's load this thing up and start making some stuff. My soda froze. I need to turn my refrigerator down. Puppy pad, there we go. Stick that in there. I've used this for 4 bends. 1 practice bend and then the 3 bends on that tube that I put on there already. Loading this up is pretty simple. Put this horseshoe looking thing around the tube and in the hole. Goes through the die. It's gonna line up the line where we're supposed to start this bend, and then we're good to go. We can tighten up this jack and start pumping away. I'm just gonna bend this until I think it looks good, and then we'll do the other side the same as this side. What do you think of that? One of the nice things about not having any specifications, where all it has to be is symmetrical, is you can just build with no plan, and it's just great. My favorite. Pull this thing out of here, then we can hold it up next to the front of the truck and see how good it looked. Oh, I guesstimated good. Oh yeah, that's gonna look real nice. I know what's throwing me off is this winch plate and this veer lead are off center. The winch has to be to the right of the truck because you got this gearbox there. Because I decided not to go full hydro with this truck, just for the simple fact of if I ever decided to make it roadworthy and drive it to work or something like that, I don't want to run the chance of being pulled over someday. Here in Arizona, maybe everywhere in the US, not really supposed to have full hydro steering on the road. Which doesn't really make sense to me because you can legalize anything on the road in Arizona. People are driving around their golf carts. People are driving around all kinds of stuff. So I do have a laser level to make sure these are bent in the same angle. Because that's important to me. Shucks, where is it? Where's my laser level? For now, I'm gonna do this. Lay this, that's 0.3 degrees. And assuming that everything there is level, this is 0.2 degrees. All I did was tighten up this a little bit to give some grip on the tube so that's not gonna move. And I laid this over so that it can. And that way, hopefully, If my calculations are correct, when I bend this tube to 35 degrees plus one pump, they'll be the same exact angle and they'll be the same exact plane with each other. And then all I gotta do is notch them out and weld it onto that thing. Well, I gotta notch it in 3 places. Gotta make room for my fair lead. That's gonna be a fun project. Okay, so I'm getting ready to measure where I'm gonna notch this, and I know exactly how far away the lower tube is gonna be from the upper tube. So all I've gotta do is measure to make sure this is far enough away from this flat edge, and then I can mark the tube where I'm gonna notch each end. So I know I wanna give myself 2.5 inches, 2.5 inches all the way across. Let me double check, see if that's what I want. If this turns out good, I'm going to be ecstatic. Mark it here. I'm not sure what the tubing notcher is capable of. So it's my first time ever using this tool, so let's see if we have to shim it or something. Okay, so it appears to me that I'm going to have to cut this piece off because I have a really short deal there. If I cut this off, then I'll be able to drill it the rest of the way. Clearly, I have no idea what I'm doing. Okay, well, seems that's as far as I can go because otherwise, I'll get into the tool and I don't want to cut it. I just paid $200 for this thing. I think I'll just have to live with that, I guess. So I finished this off a little bit with the cutoff wheel and then the flat disc. It fits pretty well on there. If I'm cutting something that's that much of an angle, I'm just gonna have to live with using the angle grinder just a little bit. And I admit this is a pretty complicated notch job for my very first bumper build, but I think maybe I just got a little overzealous. All right, now I got this bar bent, notched pretty good, and my first bending, my first notching job, then I might notch out a part of this middle just a little bit so that you can see my beautiful fair lead here. So this is sort of how I pictured it in my head. Big old notch in this tube, and then weld some plate inside there so it's all sealed up. And then the whole back side of this lower tube is going to be welded to that winch plate, so it doesn't really take away from any of the structural integrity, but that's where the winch plate's going to go. Okay, so this is kind of what I had envisioned. Now I just need to cap off these 2 ends and round this corner out a little bit more so that the synthetic rope doesn't get caught on that. Okay, well, that didn't actually turn out too terrible as long as it's going to look good. Let's put it on here. Yeah. I don't know if I'm just naturally good at this because this is the first, metal thing that I've made out of tube and benders and notchers, but oh my goodness, that looks amazing. I can't believe that I got the angles right and everything is straight. I'll have to put some plate inside here. Look, this is the best part. If you look down, it's still really super flush. And that's about as low as it's going to hang down. And the best part about it, that's pretty much my approach angle right there. Let's see. Approach angle. 10 degrees. Seriously, I may hit my 1980s Jeep grill, but I'm impressed by that. Yep, I'm happy. That makes me happy. Who welded this?